Stop searching for learning hacks. If you want to have a successful college career, a successful academic career, if you want to be a competitive med school candidate, competitive law school candidate, if you want to start your own business, stop looking for study hacks now. I'm going to give you 5 strategies called desirable difficulties that will immediately make your study process more beneficial to you, not just for your learning and performance. You will get the A's. You will also learn the material. But even more important than that, these 5 desirable difficulties, these 5 strategies are going to help you rewire your brain so that when you graduate college, when you graduate med school, when you are a doctor, when you are an entrepreneur, you are better equipped to problem solve, to overcome obstacles, to overcome challenges, to think on your feet in a way that you cannot do right now, or at a level you can't get right now, right? These strategies are going to help you do that. I'm going to give you 5 that you can apply today and that you should be applying on day 1 of college. I've made shorts on them before: retrieval practice, interleaving, spacing, varied practice, and generation. Retrieval practice, I've made a short on this already. You can see it in my videos. Means testing yourself. What do students typically do? Students will reread, rewrite notes, highlight. They will re-expose themselves to material for hours on end. I've met with many students who have studied into 3 a.m.s, 4 a.m.s, into the night, well into the night, and still do not perform at the level of, effort and work that they have, given. When you're rereading, when you're highlighting, it feels like you're learning. You have the illusion that you understand your material, but you do not, right? Often students find that they do not. They come up to the exam and they blank out, or they come to the exam and they realize there's stuff that they thought they knew and they didn't really know. What retrieval practice will do, what testing yourself does, whether it's using practice problems, whether it's explaining things out loud, whether it is using flashcards, is that it helps you identify what you really know and what you think you know. In the text, Make It Stick, which I think all undergraduate students should read before college, there's an analogy a faculty member gives in the book. She says, your mind is like a forest, and somewhere in that forest, there's a memory that you need to retrieve. Every time you go and search through the forest and find that memory, you create a pathway to that memory. And every time you travel that path to that memory gets more refined, it becomes more improved, right? When you highlight, when you rewrite your notes, or rewrite lecture notes without thinking, that is, of course, when you just re-expose yourself to your notes and your material without testing yourself, that is like just having a guide lead you through that forest. It's like, for me, it's like having a GPS. I've been living in Jersey for a while now, and I still can't tell my way around the roads because I use my GPS so often and I'm not actually thinking about where I'm going. That is what looking at your notes does for you when not coupled with testing yourself. Now, what does it feel like? A lot of students, it's easy for me to say this to students, but they don't know what it feels like to actually engage in active recall. It's funny, the research says even when students know retrieval is the superior study strategy, they will still revert back to rereading and highlighting because they don't see or they don't feel the immediate results of the retrieval practice. This is how it feels when you are testing yourself. If you've ever tried to remember someone's name, there's that moment where you're just really thinking hard about what the person's name is. There's a moment where you're blanking out and you're like, I know it, it's on the tip of my tongue. When you, or if you can remember that name, the retrieval route to that name or to that memory is strengthened. So thinking back to the memory, the analogy of the mind being a forest and the path being created to the memory, the retrieval route is strengthened so that when you get into an exam space, right, where there's a lot of anxiety in the exam, or when you're being asked to recall directly in a problem set or a prompt, you're able to travel that path and get back to that memory easier because you've spent time testing yourself and strengthening that path. Retrieval feels frustrating. It feels slow. Yeah, it feels like you're moving at a pace that is snail slow. But the rewiring of your brain is deeper. The retrieval route, it creates retrieval routes that are stronger, so it is time well spent. Give yourself 5 to 10 minutes to really think before you go back to your notes. A lot of students will stop when they don't remember after the first minute or two. But if you just give yourself a little bit of time to really wrestle with trying to recall, it will be more beneficial for you long term. Here are some ways you can engage in retrieval practice. Here are some study strategies you can use today or at the start of the semester, when we start back in this semester this fall, that you can immediately begin using to retrieve and to test yourself and to test your knowledge. If you're going to review, that's fine. If you still want to highlight and underline and reread, fine. It's like comfort food. It's like comfort food. If you can't give that up, fine. But what you need to know, you have to have the awareness to know that doing that actually does nothing for your learning. It does nothing for your learning. So if you need that comfort food, fine, eat it. But couple it with testing, with deep testing. Retrieval practice, it will not be as effective if it's not effortful. What can make your retrieval practice more effortful? Interleaving, that's your second study strategy. You start doing this today. Interleaving means that you're mixing up your content and you're not studying in blocked practice. Block practice is what students typically do. This is what teachers do too. This is how textbooks are set up, in blocks. What are blocks? Blocked practice is when you are studying in a way where you want to master one concept at a time and then move on. So, these learning strategies can be applied to college students, high school students, and elementary school, any domain. These are universal learning laws. So we're going to use addition and subtraction. If I'm teaching my 5-year-old son addition, and want him to master addition first and then move into subtraction and then move into multiplication, that actually doesn't make learning very strong. What interleaving challenges you to do is study multiple new concepts in one sitting at the same time. There's a study in the text Make It Stick. They did a study where they broke up two different groups of baseball players with the same batting average, around the same batting average. And they gave them blocked practice, and then they gave the other group interleaved practice. The blocked practice group practiced batting 15 fastballs, 15 curveballs, and 15, let's call them sliders, right? Whatever. They did three different types of pitches in blocks. Boom, boom, boom. Another 15, boom, boom. Around 5 or 6, you start to get the hang of it. You start to hit the ball out the park. You're feeling really good about your practice in the moment. But really, you're only good at hitting a certain pitch because you know it's coming and because you are prepared for it. So they look good. If we're all sitting as a group outside of a fence and we're watching them, we're like, them boys is good. They knock the ball out the park. Now look at the interleaved group. This group, they're getting random pitches, fastballs, curveballs, sliders. They don't know what's coming. And they look like they suck because they're not hitting anything. Oh my gosh, oh my goodness. The same thing happens in the academic world when you're studying multiple concepts. Your study doesn't feel like it's effective. It doesn't feel like it's working when really it is. It doesn't feel like it. So, boom, these batters are hitting, they're missing, and we're sitting on the opposite side of the fence and we say, those boys suck. Those boys aren't gonna be much. Well, they did the study, and it turns out the batters who did the interleaved, even the ones who were already hitting well, their batting average improved versus the people who did block practice. They kind of stayed the same or actually got worse. The question is why, right? You've heard the phrase practice how you play, right? So if you're studying how you're going to be examined in a mixed format, you're going to perform better. Why? Because your mind is now better able to discriminate between the types of material. This is an addition problem. This is the subtraction problem, which requires something different. This is multiplication, which requires a little bit something different too. You're better at discriminating material. This feels confusing. This feels hard. This feels counterintuitive, like it doesn't make sense. But as you're doing these study strategies, one thing you want to keep in mind is that you have a brain. And the brain is the most powerful organism on this planet, and it is processing even when you think it is not. Research shows that interleave practice strengthens long-term learning and makes it more durable. But even if you do retrieval practice with interleaved retrieval practice, that is only going to have so much of an impact. You want to make it more effortful. Study strategy number 3, spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is you are spacing out your study with the intention of forgetting your material a little bit. What students typically do, they will either cram the night before or the week before an exam. They'll cram, they'll start reading, they'll start reviewing, they'll start studying in longer chunks about a week before or a couple nights before or the night before. And that's how they'll approach the learning. Sometimes they perform well on those exams because cramming can work. Sometimes they perform well on the exam, but immediately the next day they forget everything. And in which case you're in very big trouble for the next exam or for the final exam, especially if each concept builds on the other, which almost always happens. What you should be doing is spacing your study over time, because what that will do, it will cement your memory. It's going to make it a little bit harder for you to actively recall. Remember, the key is no notes, no referring to the chapter, no referring to the lecture slides, trying to retrieve and recall everything from your mind, right? To build that path to the memory. Spacing makes that process more effortful. What you all need to remember with interleaving, with spacing, with retrieval practice, these are the big 3 here. The easier it is to recall, the smaller the increase in the learning. The easier it is to recall, the smaller the increase in learning. That's not necessarily bad. That's a measure of where you are. So for example, back to addition, subtraction, multiplication. If you do your retrieval and your interleaving and it's really good, you do your practice test and you get everything right and you feel good about it, does that mean you do retrieval and interleaving on the same concepts the next day? No. If it's really easy, give yourself 2 days, give yourself 3 days. Don't look at any notes regarding that content and see if it's as easy after 3 days. If it's a little bit harder, that's great. That allows you to just make sure that your review is up to par. It kind of gives you an understanding of how you respond on the upcoming exam. If it's really hard and you don't know how to do anything after 3 days, then that means you need to study up a little bit more. That's a good measuring stick to see where you are in terms of where you need to be in the class and on the next exam. Varied practice. Varied practice is very similar to interleaving. It's very similar to interleaving. Where interleaving is talking about mixing up the content, varied practice says let's mix up the strategies or the environment where you're studying. When I was in college, they would say find yourself one space on campus where you study, and that's your one study space, and that's where you study every time. Really, that runs counter to the research, which finds that you should actually be varying up the environment where you study. You shouldn't just study in the library. You shouldn't just study in the cafe, and you shouldn't just study in your room. You should find multiple places where you're studying so that you're not developing learning cues to the location where you're studying. Okay, the study strategies. You want to change up how you're studying. If you're doing practice problems, I just saw a YouTube video on this. I can't remember who it was. I would love to post the link. I just watched a video on math problems and a lot of reasons, some reasons why students struggle in math courses. They're being taught the formulas and then they're taught the concepts. Very rarely are they looking at the formulas and speaking in long form about what that formula is, what that formula does, why that formula is important. So one thing you could do to vary up your practice if you're a math student is, in addition to doing math problems, talk about the formulas and write a learning paragraph on why that formula, how that formula would be used, why that formula is used, and maybe even begin to create your own problems, your own exam questions based off a term or a formula or a concept, right? You want to vary up how you're approaching the material. Practicing with varied formats in different environments, using different strategies, it improves your adaptability. So if you get to an exam and you were expecting it to be multiple choice, but actually you've been practicing an open-ended and it is open-ended, you're able to adapt. Or even better, if you've been practicing an open-ended form and you find that it's multiple choice, you're gonna be better suited for that, better prepared for that, because you're adaptable. You've been varying up your study strategies. Last but not least, and this is the last one I'm gonna give you all, generation. Generation, I think, is something that students struggle more with than any of these other ones. They struggle with finding value in it. Before I tell you what generation is, I'm gonna tell you what students typically do when they're met with a challenge. If you're doing a problem set, or if you're responding to an open-ended prompt, what a student typically does, they will see the problem, they will tell themselves, as soon as they hit a point where they don't know what to do next, they will immediately stop. They will wait to be told the answer, told how to do it. They might go and look in the book and see what the answer is. They might go and see how the answer was created, or how it was formed, or how the book tells you should get to the answer. Then they will go back to the problem set and complete it. Generation is attempting to solve a problem without being told how to do it. Research says learning is strengthened when you attempt to generate a response prior to being taught. Students really struggle with that because often the problem you generate is going to be wrong. It's going to be incorrect. Even when you get something wrong, learning is strengthened if you get delayed feedback. The delayed feedback can come in the form of a lecture. The delayed feedback can come in the form of a tutoring session. The delayed feedback can come in the form of just referring to notes or to the book. But if you can generate response using the tools that you have, and you actually get it right, learning is even more strengthened. So what that should do for your mind is you should be looking at making mistakes. You should be looking at mistakes as an opportunity to strengthen your learning, because that is literally what it does. You cannot learn if you're not making mistakes. On the week of your lectures, you should see what's going to be covered. You should do a light skim of the upcoming chapter. Try to make sense of what the upcoming chapter is telling you. Then you want to attempt a practice problem that you have not yet had to wrestle with. Attempt it all the way through. Use the tools you have to try to discern what the steps might be and get the answer wrong. Then go to lecture, which will this doing generation will actually help you be more focused in lecture because you've already introduced the material to yourself. Then learn the proper way to approach the problem and then try again. And I'm speaking in STEM terms right now. I don't mean to, but these all can be applied to the humanities as well. This is going to feel awkward. As the other 4 strategies, it's going to feel slow. And then sometimes it's going to be slow. But what you have to trust is that your brain is processing. What it does, it will lead to longer, more durable learning. It will rewire your brain, right? So that you're operating at a higher level when the grade is given, after the grade is given. Generation primes you to learn faster. Again, there are no learning hacks. But there are learning realities. And the reality of generation is it will help you learn faster because you're introducing yourself to material. You're already introducing the struggle to your material before the professor can even have an opportunity to do that. These 5 learning strategies, if you just apply these 5 today, right? These are going to help you rewire your brain so that you are a more competent problem solver. And being a problem solver in this job environment is incredibly important. So often students say, I would do better in this class if it was interesting to me, if it was motivating to me, if I was motivated by the content. I don't like the content, so that's what's making me not learn. That's not true. You are not taking General Chemistry 1 to learn General Chemistry 1. You're not taking Intro to History to learn about the introduction of history. You're not taking Cultures and Context, Ancient Egypt, to learn all about ancient Egypt. You're not going to learn much about ancient Egypt just from taking it one semester in your first or second year of college. You have a vision for your life. The class is going to help you learn, which therefore is going to help you rewire your brain so that you can be stronger cognitively, so that you can reach the heights where you want to go. You're taking the course because you need to strengthen your mind, and your mind is not where it needs to be to get where it wants to go, to get where you want to go. The only person who's going to get you there is you, but in order to do that, you have to overcome these obstacles. You have to struggle. You have to experience friction. And that's what Cultures and Context, Ancient Egypt, is going to give you. It's going to give you a lot of prompts. It's going to give you a lot of reading. It's going to give you obstacles that you need to overcome. Same as General Chemistry 1, same as any other course you take at the college level. The point is to struggle. Apply those strategies today. If you want to learn, if you want your learning to stick, if you want to make the most of these 4 years, if you want to make the most of this money you're spending at whatever institution it is, you need to lean into these desirable difficulties. You need to lean into discomfort. There are no learning hacks. Stop looking for hacks. Stop believing in hacks. I think it should also be said that none of these strategies are going to work for you. You're not going to see any benefit in learning these great research-backed, science-backed strategies if you do not believe in yourself, if you do not believe in your capacity to learn, if you don't believe in your capacity to reach the heights where you want to go. Whether you want to be a doctor, whether you want to be a lawyer, whether your vision for your life is not necessarily connected to a career, maybe it's connected to a way of being. These learning strategies still will help you be able to achieve that, right? To achieve that level of spirituality, to achieve that level of psychological peace that you might be seeking, right? Stop looking for the easy path and take the road less traveled. That's all I got. I will talk to y'all soon. I've been studying. I've been on my study. And after I was humbled by Gemford's pre-assessment, after I was humbled, I will be applying these. I already have been applying these 5 strategies to the content that I know is coming in the fall. Yeah, and I'll be showing some of that soon. So talk to y'all soon. Peace.
Make sure to like, subscribe to Chris and Cannon channel.